one of these days I'm going to learn not to freeze frame just before I go live, pulling a stupid face, which is what I seem to have the habit of doing. So I've come on just a little bit live, early live, to give you the opportunity to join in and see that I am live. I've just noticed there's a new button on there that I can press that's got different filters. So I could go really classic and go all black and white. I could make it look a bit, I look a bit orange in that one. Or I could go really acidic. That's not healthy looking at all. So let's go back to filter and stop messing around whilst I'm waiting for you to join. So I've decided to set myself a challenge really, and every day from the 4th of July through to the 10th of July, so that's every day this week, including the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I want to be sharing with you the 7 keys of confidence. Now, if you haven't got the time to do that and join me at 12 every day this week, UK, then let me know, because I'm always looking to see what time frames work best for people. And with people around the world, it's not always easy to gauge a time frame that works best for people, because I'm sure that some of the people that are on this page and like this page that are in the west coast of America, for example, may not be quite up at this time of the morning, but who knows. So the aim and the purpose of this is just to do a short time lunch kind of thing, so that you can grab your lunch and join me online. And I'm going to go through, as I've said, I'm going to walk through the 7 keys of confidence, which I have as, it's a free audio webinar. So it's got the video, or you can listen to it as an audio on my web page, which is juleswyman.com. But what I noticed was I had a number of people who have signed up for it, they've listened to it, and then they wanted a little bit more. And I thought, well, what better way can I do that to reach as many people as possible? And for those of you who know the work that I do around confidence, you know that one of the things that I get really passionate about is not only the topic of confidence, but also about how to make this information as accessible as possible. Now, if I was in a situation where I had oodles of money and I didn't have people to pay, then I would be doing this pretty much most of the time for a very limited amount of money. But as it is, I do have to charge, as everybody does. Supermarkets do, everybody does for what they do. So my aim is to make that there is an entry level, these videos, for example, free, so that you can access it, you can get what you need and get a starting point. So as people are joining, do say hi, say who you are and where you are in the world. And if you have a question, if you've already gone through the 7 keys of confidence, then drop it in the question below, or box below. Obviously, give the thumbs up or the hearts or tears or laughter or whatever you want to as well. And please do invite people. Please give them the opportunity to join and share, because I do get ridiculously passionate about this subject, and I do want to reach as many people as possible, because I believe that people are unnecessarily feeling uncomfortable with their life, dissatisfied with their lives, uncomfortable, I've already said that. It's like they're suffering. I listen to people talking and they talk about how hard things are, and especially in the UK at the moment, we've got a real challenging time going on for us, in the pure sense that we're a nation that likes certainty, as many nations do, and in the time frame of the last 10 days, the certainties that we did have, which were really limited, but nonetheless they were there, have all gone. And for many people, there is there is an excitement, but there is also a frisson of curiosity, of not really knowing what's going to happen and how things are going to unfold. So I want to reach out and give as much support as I can for people individually, so that they can make a difference to their lives. So do let me know who you are that's joining in, and say hi. And as I say, feel free to share the link, let other people know that this is happening. So It's going to be 12 o'clock every day for the next 7 days till the 10th, so until Sunday. And we're going to walk through the 7 keys of confidence every day so that you can have something that you can get going with. And if you want to grab the 7 keys, the whole thing, which is about 75 minutes, I think, as one webinar, you can go to juleswyman.com and put your details in there and grab that for free. So you can go through it all, but my aim really is to go a little bit deeper and doing it as a live version, giving you the opportunity to hear what each of the locks and the keys are, and hopefully ask some live questions and join in and let me know what's going on for you, what works, what's not, what's confusing, if it makes sense, and even how you can apply this to your own life. So please feel free to chuck your questions below. Don't be shy. I can see that there's people that are joining. So do come on over and let me know what your thoughts are. So I'm going to jump in with the first lock, interestingly enough, rather than giving you the first key, because every key fits into a lock, right? And quite often we're told what the keys are to unlocking a bigger thing, but with confidence, it's such a huge topic. It's massive, and there are so many different angles we can be coming in with, whether we're talking about resilience or assertiveness or self-esteem or self-worth or self-belief. There are so many different angles that we can be coming in with, and what for me is that this is this big complex topic, so I want to make sure that we look at things that are accessible and tangible and don't just aim at one area. They can go across a whole stream of different areas. So just taking a sip of tea. When I first started out my personal journey of looking at confidence, but actually moving out of the very dark, unhappy place that I was in, basically what I realised that I had been doing was stopping myself from growing, stopping myself from experiencing confidence. And the more I learnt about this, the more I understood and saw what was available. I began to recognise that it was a theme. There was a real theme as to how I was blocking myself, how I was restricting myself from experiencing confidence. And that's the first lock, really, was because I was blaming everybody and my economic status, my environment. I was blaming every single person and myself, and yet not taking any responsibility for how things could be different. So when we start looking at the first way of joining in and first way of making a difference for ourselves, we've got to start looking at how and where we're blaming ourselves. So hi Vicky, nice to have you on board. The first thing that I want you to do now, if you've got a pen and paper, fantastic. If you haven't, because you happen to be somewhere else, then that's okay too. But I've got a few questions I want to ask you to get you really thinking about how and where you blame and potentially how that's impacting on your life. So the first question I want to ask you is, who do you blame externally for how your life currently is, or how you think or feel about your current life? So as you think about that question, so who are you blaming externally for how your life is, or how you think about yourself, or feel about yourself? Just get some clarity on that. Now, I know for me externally, I blamed my family, blamed the environment that I grew up in. I blamed the school system that I went through. I blamed probably every boyfriend I ever had. I blamed the weather, because I'm British and we're very good at blaming the weather for things. I blamed the government, of course, something else that's very useful to do, even more so at this moment in time. I blamed my economic status. I blamed my label that I took on board of being working class. I blamed pretty much everybody else for how things were and how I felt, and it made me it disempowered me to then feel that I could do anything about it, because it wasn't my fault. How could it be my fault? It wasn't my fault. I didn't choose to be brought up in the environment that I was brought up in. Don't get me wrong, I was brought up in a very loving environment, interestingly. And what is interesting when I ask people about this is that so many people do, even when they are brought up in loving environments, still do blame their parents or grandparents or the neighbours or that environment for who and how they are, or who and how their life is now. And partly that's because what we're doing is if I blame somebody else, then the limitations of how my life is and how I'm experiencing my life, I can easily point the finger at. It's because of. It's something else. It was nothing that was within my standing. It was nothing within my capability. Nothing that was in my possibility or opportunity to be able to do anything about. It's far easier to say, well, it was because. And the kinds of things that I heard myself say was around, it's because I was a girl, so because I was female, because I was working class, because I didn't have a very good education, because I didn't go to university, because I was fat, because I was ugly, because I was less than educated, because there was all these because, and with every because there was a reason, or what's also known as an excuse, or even a justification to that external world saying, hands up, not my fault, sorry governor, not my fault, so I couldn't do anything about it. And in that moment of doing that, we're disempowering ourselves and passing the blame on to someone else. And by doing that, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to make any difference for our lives at all. Absolutely nothing. It's just kind of like this line in the sand where we go, that's it, done, this is how things are going to be. And that's how I lived the majority of my life. And I didn't realise that things could be different. And the first thing of recognising that is where you can start to make some difference. So by putting that blame externally, we're disempowering ourselves. So take a moment to answer that question, or look at your answers if you've already answered it, as who or even what are you blaming externally for how your life is, or how you think, or how you feel? And then I'd like you to think about it slightly differently and actually hit a pause in your mind on that and ask yourself, how do you blame yourself for how you think or feel? And that may not seem like an easy thing to answer, but actually a lot of the time we end up pushing that blame, even though we kind of make it about something else, because if I can blame the weather, I feel miserable because it's the weather, then I don't have to recognise that I can do anything about it. And the way that the brain works is with that disassociation, it recognises or believes it has nothing to do. So therefore it just goes, shrugs its shoulders and go, oh, well, there you go. I might as well sit here and have a glass of wine, pint of beer, chocolate, smoke a fag, put the TV on, moan about other things, join the pity party, whatever it may be. And we disassociate so much that we just don't think we've got any power to do anything differently. And we just resign ourselves to how things are. So hi to the rest of you that are joining. Make sure that you pop in and say hi. Let me know that you're there and who it is that's looking. And if you've got any questions about what I'm talking about so far, about the first lock within the 7 Keys of Confidence, which is actually about blame, then please do pop it in the comments box. And when we're not realising that we're blaming ourselves, that's again, we kind of think, well, at least I'm not blaming somebody else. But then we blame ourselves in such a fixed in stone kind of way, a resigned, well, it's because of X, Y, and Z that I am this way. This is who I am. And again, this is a pattern I hear, and I know it myself, so I'm not putting any blame out on anybody else, or criticism out on anybody else either, is that what we then end up doing is we say, well, it's because of, and we have this fixed opinion of ourselves. This is who I am, and therefore I won't be able to do anything outside of that box. And I know for myself, the impact that was then having on my life was I was only allowing myself and only giving myself the opportunities to see certain things that were going on, certain opportunities, certain possibilities, certain things that I could actually be doing. But because of believing, well, somebody from my background, or as a woman I couldn't, or at my age, or because of my education, or you kind of fill in the blank really. We've all got our own BS that we keep buying into, and we are either blaming our external circumstances for that, or we're blaming ourselves. So once you've got clarity on the answers for both of those questions, my next question that I would put for you to think about is actually ask yourself, what impact does that blaming, what impact do the blaming thoughts have on you and your confidence? So what impact do those blaming thoughts, whether you're blaming externally or whether you're blaming internally, what impact does that have on you? And notice what it has as an impact on your confidence. Notice what impact it's having on you internally. Is it stopping you? Is it stopping you from applying for that job? Is it stopping you from putting an ideal forward to your boss? Is it stopping you from asking that person on a date or coming out of a relationship? What is that blaming, that rigidity, that framework that you've put around yourself? What is it stopping you from doing? What is the real cost, the real impact that that's having on your life? Because what I didn't realize beforehand is that because I was blaming everybody else, and if there was no legitimate reason to be blaming anything externally, then what I would do is I would be blaming myself internally, which, to be honest, I was doing pretty much constantly anyway. But when you're doing that, for me, the impact was that it meant that I was in poor relationships. It meant that I was causing myself to badly mistreat myself, really, with food, with smoking, with drugs, with alcohol. So I wasn't treating myself very nicely because I was blaming myself. That internal dialogue meant that I believed I deserved to be punished. Now, how's that helpful? How's that going to be supportive for anybody who actually wants to feel comfortable, who wants to feel confident, strong, empowered, truthful, resilient, assertive, caring, considerate, kind, whatever the word is, even if it's not really confidence? Maybe it is about that resilience, but how are you going to feel that if they've got that internal blaming going on? So that's the first lock that you really do need to be aware of, because it's that you may or may not have seen. There's a model which is above the line and below the line thinking. And below the line are the three letters that are used are B, E, D. And the B stands for blame, the E stands for excuses, and in my version the D stands for defense or denial. And that's a key indicator in any situation. Just look for yourself when you are feeling that or thinking that you're not able to go and do something, or thinking that it's not possible, or it'll never happen, or I haven't got the confidence to. Just stop and ask yourself, am I blaming myself or anybody else for this, or how I think and feel right now? Am I making any kind of excuses? Am I in denial that I can do something about this? Because if you are, you're going to be below the line with your thinking, and that's what's going to keep you kind of like your wheels spinning and not get you moving forward, not get you in a place of resourcefulness. So if you've got any comments, any thoughts about that, then please do let me know. That's the first lock, which is blame. And let me just check if there was anything else. Oh yes, there was something else that I wanted to share with you. You may or may not have come across Brené Brown and her work. Now, her work tends to be focused on shame, and Brené is spelled B-R-E-N-E, by the way, and Brown as in the colour. Her work is focused around shame and vulnerability. She does have this, and once I've come off this, actually, I'll go onto YouTube and I'll find it and put the link below. She has this wonderful way of explaining about what happens with blame, and how when something builds up and we have a reaction, we may not like the sensation, the thoughts or the emotions, the stories that are created around the experience, the thing that's happened. And so because we don't like that, what we do is we blame something external to kind of like dissipate the internal emotion. So the instance that she uses is about spilling coffee down herself, and her husband happens to phone and she blames him. because he made her stay up late or something like that, and therefore she was tired and having an extra cup of coffee, and it was his fault, etc., etc. And in actual fact, it wasn't at all, but it was far easier to blame him than it was to take responsibility for herself in that sense. And interestingly enough, that's the key. When you discover that you're blaming and you are, whether that be externally or internally, the key that makes the difference to unlock this is to take responsibility. Now, taking responsibility or responsibility as a word is one of those words that kind of splits people. And whenever I'm in a group, I like to ask about what their thoughts are around it. And there usually comes two things. If I ask them, if it was an object, what would be its weight? And most people are like, oh, responsibility is heavy. It's usually medium to heavy weight. And if I ask them whether they like it, there are very few, I would say less than 5% of people that kind of raise their hand and go, absolutely, give me responsibility, I love it. And I would say the rest of people, there'd be about another 5 to 10% that are kind of like, don't really like it. But everybody else that's in between, they are more, they say that they like responsibility, but there's a caveat there. Well, it depends. It depends on what I'm responsible for. It depends on what the outcome is going to be. Responsibility. Am I back? Yes, I think I am. Hello. So yes, I'm fiddling with the laptop, hence why the funny faces. So the key with the first big key with making a difference for yourself is responsibility. It's recognizing that yes, stuff happens in life. Life happens with us, not against us or to us. It's happening with us. We are involved in it. We are part of it. And when you take responsibility for your actions and your non-actions, when you take responsibility for what you have done, can do, and equally what you haven't done and what you can't do, when you're recognizing that, it's going to give you the opportunity to relax. It's going to give you the opportunity to just take a step, one step at a time, and recognizing what is possible, what is viable from where you're at this moment in time. Now, every single person that's either watching this live or bobbing on to watch the recordings or joining me later on in the week, every single person can, if they make the choice to, take responsibility for themselves. Now, we could look at that in the sense of taking responsibility. It's our responsibility, this vehicle that we're in, this human body, it's our responsibility to take care of it. If we want it to run healthily, then we need to do everything possible and take responsibility for this machine. And, that means taking care of it. And some of us do and some of us don't. And I certainly didn't used to. And it's still an art that I practice now. It's not necessarily something that I find fantastically easy, but it is something that I recognize is my responsibility. If I want to be fit and healthy, then I can join a gym, I can hire a personal trainer, but it doesn't matter how. I could go to the most amazing gym in the world, I could have the best personal trainer in the world, but they can't do the work for me. And no matter how much equipment is in that gymnasium, I'm the one who's got to take responsibility. I'm the one who's got to put the jog pants and vest on and the trainers and get out there and do it. I'm the one who's got to take responsibility for, I go to a Zumba class every week, which I love because it just suits me down to the ground. And I notice that there are some weeks where I can just do it full on, absolutely 100% to a pelt. And then there are other weeks when it's very different. And I check in with myself, okay, have I done everything I possibly could to make this experience and do it to the level that I know that I'm capable of? Now, there are some weeks where I've had a really busy work week and I'm shattered. I'll still go to the class, but I've done everything I can. So if I'm doing the class at like 70, 80%, then actually that's still pretty fantastic considering the week that I've had, and I've taken responsibility for that. Equally, there are other weeks where I've eaten not very great during the day. That's not very good English either. I've eaten not very well during the day, and therefore the class becomes hard. And it's like, okay, well, that's not about blaming myself of, oh, well, you know, I've got a, you know, sugar addiction, and it's just because I'm right in the centre of York and it's really easy to nip out and buy food, and, you know, I've had a busy week, I couldn't buy everything I needed to. It's none of that's just BS. That's not helpful at all. I can take responsibility and recognise that, do you know what, to have got the most out of this class, I need to do what I can to be there and be resilient. And today, in that particular day, I didn't. So, okay, just recognise I did that and log that as a learning for the next time. The more you can recognise that that's what responsibility is about recognising what you are doing. Give yourself that credit for it. Acknowledge that. Give yourself the space and recognition for what you are doing. Unfortunately, our brains get so hooked on looking at what we haven't done and what we didn't do and what we got wrong. And that's unfortunately part of the way it focuses. So your job, she says, wagging a finger, your job really is to take that responsibility. Look at what you can do and look at what's maybe not viable for you to do at that moment in time. Look at where you do have responsibility and take it. And one of the keys that we tend not to think about too much is our thoughts, is our thinking. And where our thinking is concerned, we have, in a way that I view it, we've got two types of thinking. We've got this automatic kind of thinking that just goes on a daily basis, and depending on what research, it's somewhere between 60 and 90% of that. 60 and 90,000 of those thoughts happen every day. They're the same thoughts that just keep reoccurring, and they're automatic. And it's that's the kind of automatic thinking that keeps us blinking, that keeps us breathing, that remembers directions to places, that remembers answers that we need if we're working or helping somebody or helping ourselves. That, you know, that's kind of automatic thinking. And then we have conscious thinking, where we are taking the time to hit pause, take responsibility for what we want to think or say before we do something. And unfortunately, and again, depending on what research you look at, between 90 and 98% of our behaviours, our strategies, our thinking every day falls into this camp. It's this automatic, just keeps happening, don't really know stuff. Now, relating that back to our confidence, most of that we kind of decided when we were younger. So I can't do that because, or I'll never be able to because somebody like me can't, or it's not possible to, or whatever it may be. We decide that little realm there that we have, all of these thoughts about ourselves, the stories and descriptions and perception we have of ourselves, they're just churning over and over again. I'm sure, like me, you will have experienced something where you said something. I know one of my habits used to be, one of these thinking things is somebody would ask me something for a favour, and before I knew it, I'd gone, yeah, sure, I'd love to do that. And then this other conscious bit would think about what they'd asked and go, would I really want to do that? Is that something that I would like to do? And it might come up with a yes, might come up with a no, but the automatic thinking kicked in first and didn't actually give me an opportunity to consciously make a choice. So it's really interesting to recognise that we've got those two different types of thinking, and our responsibility is to start seeing which of those is impacting on our confidence and which one would be helpful and resourceful versus which one can be helpful and yet the majority of the time it's running on autopilot. We're just running on autopilot, and that's not really not going to be helpful at all. So what we have to recognise is that for us to grow our own confidence, to genuinely start to feel and make a difference for ourselves, what we really need to be able to do is take responsibility, recognise where we're blaming either ourselves, circumstances, other people, situations, events, etc. Recognise where we're doing that and see the blame first, and then take responsibility to make a change. What can I do that's going to be supportive for me? What will help me? And one of my questions that I use in the keys is, what if by taking responsibility, you could really change how you thought and how you felt about yourself? What if by taking personal responsibility, let me put a different spin on it, what if by taking personal responsibility, you could change how you thought and felt about yourself and even grow your confidence? So, believe it or not, that's half an hour kind of wrapping up very swiftly. So for those of you that are still on and been able to stay and watch, what are your insights? What are your thoughts, questions, comments? I'm also going to be looking on here because it seems to me that some of the live stuff for some reason is not coming through on my screen at the moment. I don't know if that's to do with the connection that I've got. So every day this week I'm going to go through those. You may still be typing, you may not have questions, I may have answered them. Every day this week, including Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to go through each of those locks and keys that prevent you from growing your confidence, that stop you and hinder you from experiencing what I've come to realize is genuine, authentic confidence, where it's none of this faking it stuff, none of it acting, none of it forcing yourself to be a different way. It's just genuine, authentic confidence that's really making a difference for you. So do share this video. It's going to stay on the page. So please do share it with anybody that you know could do with having some different insights on confidence. Maybe they're having some challenges with all of what's been blown up in the UK, or all of what's happening in their working environment. But make sure that you share the video, comment down below as well, even if you're watching the recording, because I will go back and look at that, because I'll do my best to keep answering questions as we go through the week so that I can make a difference. My passion is about making a difference. I want to reach as many people as possible, because I do believe that there is a different way of living for every single person, and that the suffering, the discomfort, the lack of confidence, the self-doubting, the questioning, the lack of resilience, the fear, being scared of taking the opportunities that life has to offer, I don't think is the way that we have to live, and it's certainly not been my experience. So thank you for taking the time to join me live. For those of you who've been able to stay on, I apologise that the signal has been weak at times. I'm hoping I'm not being too pixelated. And I look forward to sharing the second key of confidence with you tomorrow. Have a fantastic day, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.